Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in to my super chat. Thank you so much. For you to support my work in this tough time means a great deal to me. To my new Patreons, by the way, thank you very, very much. My Patreon link is below in the pinned comment if anybody wants to support my work long term. I have two of the best moderators in all of YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Give a lot of love and thanks to Eric H526 and Luke St. Martin. It's very important to have two great moderators on any live stream, especially if you're a content creator that does a lot of live streaming like me. YouTube monitors what my viewers say and how the comments on YouTube actually are monitored. So that's part of the algorithm. I'm not sure if that was always the case, to tell you the truth. I don't know if that was always the case. I think that that's something new, relatively new, that the community guideline algorithm would be tied to what people, how people express themselves. But generally, I've always had amazing viewers anyway. So nobody said anything egregious in my I've always had an amazing comment section, even when I was on the left too, which was interesting. I've always had really good people, no matter whether I was on the left or more conservative and a Trump supporter now. But everybody give a lot of love to Luke St. Martin and Eric H526. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a very interesting segment. The polls are not only off, they're even worse than they were in 2016 for a number of reasons. In 2016, well, we'll read you this. I'll read you an NPR article, then I'll get to the Gallup poll. Okay? This is an interesting article. This is actually a really interesting article. And it talks about why polls were wrong, and it gives some answers for possible reasons the polls got it so wrong this year. This is November 14th. So this was 8 days after? This was 8 days after Madam Secretary lost to Trump. This was Clinton lost to Trump. 3 days prior to that, the New York Times said Hillary Clinton had a solid electoral college lead, according to the polls. Clinton has a solid electoral college lead, okay? And then it became Russia stole the election and do away with the electoral college. So there's really no way to you can't put anything past Democrats. If they don't get their way, they're going to stomp, and they're going to stomp their feet and yell at the top of their lungs, and it's going to be like a million different excuses. But here, this is really interesting. This is a really interesting. No, it's November 8th. That's right, November 8th, 2016. So less than a week after this NPR article was written. So let's read this. This is really interesting, okay? Starts off with saying the national polls weren't off. They did predict more people would vote for Clinton. That's what happened. Yeah, but Clinton outspent Trump 2-1. So there are so many factors that are ignored in these polls. I mean, so many factors. But number two, it's interesting. Some people just don't answer the phone. Does anyone find that interesting or hilarious? Some people just don't answer the phone, which is true. Could it be that Trump supporters just maybe are busier or have more things to do than Democrats? Who knows? But the point is, you're not really getting, if the type of person to answer a poll generally leans left, you're not really getting an accurate assessment of of approval throughout the country. So you're not really getting an accurate viewpoint. But here, this is interesting. Many pollsters that do phone polling conduct it via random digit dialing. That means they should theoretically get a pretty representative sample. After all, they're reaching out to people randomly. It's possible that some pollsters manage to miss Trump supporters in a big way. Quote, the problem is if you get what pollsters call non-response bias, people are less likely to take your call or stay on the phone with you. Okay, so it's possible that some pollsters managed to miss Trump supporters in a big way, explains Claudia Dean, Vice President of Research at the Pew Research Center. She told NPR, this is one of three big ways which polling may have been off. Some populations, like people, this is great, some populations, like people with less education, are less likely to answer when pollsters call. People with less, if you are less likely to speak to people you don't know, that actually should correlate to more wisdom and more education. But here, less educated people heavily supported Trump. Far more even than the support Romney in 2012, than their support for Romney in 2012 and McCain in 2008. And when Trump constantly beats the drum against the media, many of whose organizations conduct polling, when they showed him losing, then perhaps this non-responsive factor among his supporters isn't so surprising. This is true. Although it's explained, it's described in a hilarious way. This is true. If you get a call from CNN, hi, this is a CNN poll. Press 1 if you'd like to continue. Are you going to continue? Even Fox News, what do I care? I'm voting for President Trump. I'm a Trump supporter. But if I get a call, even if I get a call from Trump's campaign, this is President Trump's campaign. H.A. Batman, we've selected you to win a Carnival cruise. No, thank you. But no, if you get, I'm not going to waste my time with either a recorded machine or somebody calling where they could try to get your, social security number or whatever. I mean, it'll be interesting if it's an actual person calling, or a lot of times these polls are conducted via, an automated robotic voice. So either way, why would you spend a half an hour or 20 minutes taking a poll? That should show what type of person votes Democrat. That should show you what type of person votes Democrat. She told NPR this is one of the big three ways. Okay, so that's just one example. The point is that if the groups of people who are less likely to answer pollsters' calls also happen to be the demographic group that are more likely to support Trump, that may have thrown off polls. Well, it's even worse nowadays. Who is, with everything going on, who's answering anyone's call that they don't know? I mean, it's just interesting. So that's one reason why the polls are complete nonsense. And also, you get a CNN, ABC News. That's an interesting point. Why would you answer the call, a CNN call or an ABC News or, Washington Post poll? And if you do, you're more likely than not a Democrat. And then if you answer the poll and you're a Republican, you're a never-Trumper. The issue of being a never-Trumper is a huge issue, by the way. Okay, when they say, well, first of all, most of these polls, you get more respondents who are Democrat. You get more respondents who are Democrat than Republican. And then the Republicans are never Trumpers. So there you go. Or a lot of them. But the interesting thing is, you had polls in 2016 that were talking about, could Clinton win Texas or Arizona or North Carolina? They were so off and so wrong. Polls are public relations tools, and maybe they're more accurate for smaller political contests. For a congressional contest, they're probably more accurate because you have less factors at play. For the Electoral College and for a presidential election, you have far too many factors. But the next issue is, did people lie to pollsters? They did. First of all, let me ask you a question. You're home. Your wife doesn't like Trump. The mother-in-law is home. And CNN calls, and you answer the phone. Hi, do you want to take a survey about how much you love Trump? Uh-oh. Honey, who's that? It's a CNN pollster. Well, then just go ahead and take it. Take the poll. Okay. In fact, put it on speakerphone. Question number 1. How much do you love Trump? Or question number 1. If the election were held today, would you vote for Trump? You have mother-in-law there, and you have your wife staring at you with laser beams. What are you going to say? I know, I can't stand him. He is so uncouth and boorish. Press 1 for you wouldn't vote for Trump. Press 2 for possibly. Press 3 for yes. You're going to press 1. If the election were held today, you wouldn't vote for Trump. So, they're not telling the truth. They are not telling the truth. It's kind of hilarious, too. But you're looking at a really, this is not scientific at all. There's no science to this. Zero science, all public relations. Then, of course, the media is apoplectic, seething, fuming, hysterical, rabid every single day. Negativity, the vitriol is just beyond belief. Everything's Trump's fault, even though these tragedies took place in New York City and Minneapolis. But everything's Trump's fault. So the idea that a secret Trump vote popped up throughout the election, the theory being that voters didn't want to tell a stranger on the phone that they were voting for Trump, who said and did so many controversial things on the campaign trail. This is what's called social desirability bias. The idea that voters give polling answers that for whatever reason they think will reflect well upon them. Somebody calls up, you voting for Trump? Absolutely not. He's so mean and rude, and he's not presidential. Good? Is that good? Yes, have a great day. I would never vote for Trump. Why would I do that even? Why would I even do that? That's terrible. So people aren't telling the truth. They're not telling the truth. You don't go from, and we'll get to Gallup in a second, but you don't go from, you don't go from 49% approval rating to 39% approval rating in 1 month when it has absolutely nothing to do with Trump. Okay, I'm voting for President Trump because he is reversing U.S. foreign policy. We had record low Black and Latino unemployment, record low unemployment nationally. First president to sign an executive order combating anti-Semitism on college campuses. First president to step foot in North Korea and begin détente between North and South Korea. President Moon Jae-in of South Korea stated that Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. Got us out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Is addressing the trade balance. Has addressed the trade imbalance with China. Maybe not in the same $400 billion trade deficit. Maybe not in the way that Democrats would want, but at least he's tackling the issue. So, removing soldiers and slowly laying the groundwork for removing soldiers from endless counterinsurgency conflicts, promoted by, initially, Bush, the worst president we've ever had, then President Obama. But here, a week ahead of the election, a panel of GOP insiders told Politico They believed this was happening. Quote, I personally know many Republicans that won't admit that they are voting for Trump. One Virginia Republican told Politico. I don't like admitting it myself. It won't matter if Hillary is up more than 5 points, but we might be in for a surprise if Hillary's lead is less than 5 points on Election Day. So this is that quote was actually before the election. I was quoted by NPR, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. The link is below. I was quoted, and I stated that Clinton is unelectable. And she was. I predicted the election. Hillary Clinton is going to be nominee this year. It ain't going to be Biden. It will be the biggest political charade of all time, and I will have made the biggest political call of all time, ladies and gentlemen. But, exactly, Cowboy Derp. They oversample Democrats all the time. All the time. And then they get the Republicans that are never Trump Republicans. And now this is the most important. This is really, really a great paragraph within this article. And number 4, it's hard to capture enthusiasm or lack thereof. There is no way to capture the enthusiasm of people voting for President Trump other than to say that whenever they try to gauge or assess or find what the enthusiasm gap is, it's always 35 to 40% a differential between Biden and Trump. Trump being closer to 70%, very enthusiastic, with Biden, 30% of voters enthusiastic. So that's a huge issue, But here, pollsters talk to a lot of people, and they try to predict which ones will in fact turn up to the polling place. That's harder than it sounds. Way too many people tell you they're going to vote. What may have happened is that the usual models of predicting simply didn't work this year, she explained. After all, a lot of other things about the election were unusual. High levels of anger and 2 candidates with high unfavorability ratings, for example, that may have made this year unique in terms of figuring out which of those people were motivated to vote. So I don't know how Democrats are going to win, without Gary Johnson, because if you remove Gary Johnson from the equation, even if you add Jill Stein's voters to Clinton, Trump wins the popular vote. That's something that nobody's talking about that, and I did a segment on that. Nobody's talking about that. There's going to be a third party left and a third party for conservatives. Okay, fine. But there will be more people voting, very likely more people, or let's put it this way. There aren't going to be 4.5 million people voting for the libertarian ticket. Nobody is talking about the Libertarian Party. Nobody. And the Democrats have become such an antithetical. They're the antithesis of what any libertarian would believe. The antithesis. They were in 2016 also, but less. They're more so now, the antithesis. But here, what may have happened is that the usual model of predicting didn't work this year, she explained. After all, a lot of things about the election were unusual. Okay, so you have a situation where people were not enthusiastic. They were just not enthusiastic. And I mean, Trump has a good chance to win the popular vote. He really does. You start defunding law enforcement, and, if the only thing you have is anger and contempt towards Trump, that's not going to get you anything. Now, every single article is even more apoplectic than the previous article. And people have tuned out. To the extent that pollsters overestimated Clinton's supporters' willingness to vote or underestimated Trump supporters' willingness, they could have thrown things off. To be clear, these are all possibilities. Pollsters will have plenty of work to do to figure out why they didn't capture this year. Well, they're even worse. So that was written, 4 years ago. They're even worse this year. They are even worse this year, ladies and gentlemen. That's funny, John. John, we're still recounting. Sorry for the buffering, ladies and gentlemen. But they're even worse this year. The polls are even less accurate. They're less accurate. And we'll get to the Gallup poll in a second, but if there are not reasons attributed to what Trump has done, so if there are no reasons attributed to President Trump, if you can't pinpoint a reason, if you cannot pinpoint a reason why Trump has lost support other than media, or if you say, well, Trump has lost support because of his rhetoric, sorry, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. Okay? Trump's rhetoric is not as important. Trump's rhetoric is not as important to the average American as it is to Democrats. Okay? Rhetoric, if words and offensive statements, if words and offensive statements sway voters, then they should do so equally when Biden says his horrendous and atrocious "you ain't" comment with Charlemagne the God. But that's not the case. Democrats generally get a free pass on words, atrocious rhetoric, horrible, atrocious, disgusting behavior. The media goes to bat for them all the time. All the time. And so you have a situation where you don't get the same you do not get the same response from media as you do with Trump. So sorry for the internet connection, but you don't get the same response. You just don't get the same response. And I mean that's the thing. When Democrats or Biden say something horrendous or do something atrocious, they get a completely free pass. They get a free pass. They're never taken to task. And thank you, 33 Willis. Thank you very much. Thank you. They're never taken to task, and they're never given the same negative media coverage. They're never given the same media coverage. What happens is President Trump is treated, even though they think of him like a bully, he's treated by media and Democrats the way like a kid picked on in school is treated. It's pretty unbelievable. They just everything is like the media is the cool crowd. They're like the most wonderful, awesome, cool kids, and they're picking on Trump, and anyone associated with Trump is just so horrible. And Twitter and social media also foster this kind of really gross and childish and sophomoric and vapid mentality. And you see this with journalists that if you ask what I have a lot of respect, even though he probably doesn't agree with, he probably either doesn't appreciate my philosophy on things or my writing or my thought process, but I'll still go ahead and say I have a lot of respect for Michael Tracy. I think that he's a great journalist, or I don't agree with a lot of what I don't agree with his thought process oftentimes, but he is a very good journalist because he's honest. And what's happening with Michael Tracy is that he's actually winning. Like, he's actually going up against a lot of the same paradigm that I went up against. The difference being he's still firmly on the left, and I don't think he'll ever become a Trump supporter. Because I don't know if he cares or wants to end counterinsurgency conflicts, or believes that voting for Trump would even lead to that. But you look at every single day, they're calling Michael Tracy the new H.A. Goodman. Oh, he's become H.A. Goodman. He's become H.A. Goodman. And if you look, he's going up every single day on Twitter and just going after anyone who goes after him, or at least defending himself. It's pretty unbelievable. I mean, it's a lot of... I mean, I used to consider it just a lot of work and a waste of time, but I give him a lot of credit because he's fighting for what he believes in against a whole lot of people who just care about groupthink. Most of the people who don't like Michael Tracy will end up voting for Hillary Clinton, even though when they pretend they don't want Biden. The average never Biden person in 2 seconds will vote for Hillary Clinton. She's going to be the nominee. I will have made the biggest political call of all time, ladies and gentlemen. Share my Times of Israel article below Hillary Clinton, not Biden, will be nominee, and share my Huffington Post article. There is a tremendous amount of groupthink, bullying, harassment on the left. Exactly, John Flynn. Exactly. If you look at, sorry by the way, everybody, for the buffering. I don't know why this is happening. I do not know why this is happening. But if you look, ladies and gentlemen, at the manner in which, the manner that media, the media in the United States of America is not objective. It is completely one-sided, completely and utterly one-sided. Climb BMX! Read How Trump Won by Joel B. Pollack. And you know what? I'm gonna get that book. Dr. Schweikart. It explains how independent pollsters worked lawfully within the Trump campaign to weed through the fake polls. Climb BMX, thank you, Climb BMX, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is that it's kind of like you look at within every poll. If you look at the Gallup poll, for example, Climb BMX, look at the Gallup poll. The Gallup poll says Trump job approval slides to 39%. Okay, there's not much copy here. With a month prior, the 49% total. It talked about, Trump's accomplishments with the economy, or at least how he was surviving despite the pandemic. And now it's about Trump's response to George Floyd. George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis. That's a Democratic-run city with Justin Frey, or what's his name? Jacob Frey. This guy is a Justin Trudeau wannabe. Jacob Frey, he tried to protest alongside. I mean, look at him. He's like he looks like a Justin Trudeau, good liberal. He even opposes abolishing law enforcement. He even opposes abolishing law enforcement because he knows you cannot run a city that way. He knows that you can't run a city that way. And it's like you're going to if you look at let's see, they say that they look at it and they say, well, Camden, New Jersey. Camden has a population of 74,000 people. Okay? That's a small, very small suburb in outside in Los Angeles. In LA County, you'd have like a small suburb with more people than that. Okay? And you better not do away with the Second Amendment. So, and even then, it's like almost certainly police departments from other precincts or other locations have addressed whether it's domestic violence calls or whatever. So, exactly, Luke St. Martin. The issue is that you have to make sure that law enforcement officials are trained a certain way. The training is easy. It's not that difficult. If you've immobilized a person, you don't put your knee or boot on their neck. You just do not do that. You don't do that. You don't do that. This is going to be BMX, Climb BMX, everyone here. It is going to be the most rewarding November of all time. They're going to lose. They're going to blame a million different things. Now it's voter suppression. They're not going to ever give up, but the only good thing will be they're not going to reform their political party. So Madam Secretary will probably run again in 2024. But what'll be interesting, ladies and gentlemen, is the following. When Madam Secretary becomes nominee, and it's going to happen. Right now, there would be zero resistance. She's the only person they have who can win. Hillary Clinton is the only chance they have to win. And I'm saying this as not a fan. Not a fan. Not a fan. Definitely not a fan. I'm telling you, Biden has no chance to even get the popular vote. I'm telling you, Clinton is the only person they have who can defeat Trump, and I give her a 20% chance. Now, if President Trump makes certain mistakes here and there, I give her a 30% chance. I would strongly urge President Trump not to make any even though controversial statements are like whatever. It's like if they go after him, he's going to hit back. I would say beware. In the next week or 2 weeks prior to the election, you're going to have people trying to provoke the president. I would advise against too forceful of a response. Because then media will the vitriol will be too much, and that could affect votes. I mean, there are certain missteps that Trump could make. Eagles next, 291. Me too. I would say watch out for, because for example, in football, if if an offense doesn't have a passing game, they put everyone in the box and they say, go ahead and pass. We're going to stop the run. So with Trump, they know what he's good at and they know his weakness or potential weaknesses. And a potential weakness would be to perhaps right before the election say something egregious that they could harp on and latch onto and then create. See, the thing is, it's not even what he says. It's the meaning and the intent that they assign to what he says. So his quotes take on a life of their own. His words take on lives of their own, meanings of their own. So he has to watch out. There are things that, look, I'm telling you, Biden has no chance. Joe Biden ain't going to be nominee. He ain't going to be nominee. You cannot say the you ain't comment. Oh, Bernie Sanders, I have a better relationship with Joe Biden than I had with Hillary Clinton. Oh, Bernie, isn't that interesting? Guess what, Bernard? Your entire movement is getting taken over by anarchists who have pushed out the socialists. So the the left, by the way, is no longer like, you look at the left and then there's like self-described anarchists. They've actually taken over. They actually have the most influence within the Democratic Party, or I should say within left-leaning politics, I should say. Not the socialists. They had like a moment in the sun. A tiny moment in the sun, which, by the way, they weren't around in 2016. Like, I never said any. I actually used to say he's a democratic socialist. He's more of a capitalist that wants to just make things right. Like, I would never even acknowledge the fact that he was. And then there's the anarchist that took over everything. So the left is like. Then the Democrats utilize whatever energy or enthusiasm they have. Well, at the same time, the left is actually helping President Trump. You start defunding the police. You start doing a whole bunch of things like engaging in violence. It only helps the incumbent. But Joe Biden, if you type in Joe Biden, there is nothing about his presidential campaign. It's just, okay, Daily Show, Trevor Noah pushes Joe Biden to defund the police. What? Why do I care what talk show hosts or comedians? Like, there are comedians like George Carlin or Richard Pryor or Mort Saul was good too in terms of politics. But George Carlin was a great political satirist and comedian. There are a bunch of comedians. You can look, and one of the best was one of the best comedians ever. When it came to was Dick Gregory. When it came to political comedians in politics, Dick Gregory was amazing. But they actually talked about, it wasn't just like momentary. Their comedy, their talent, their message, their voice was intertwined with a political message for a long time. Here you have, it's almost as if Hollywood has said, okay, we're the arbiters of morality. We're gonna latch on to this new story. Before it was about Russia, then it was about Ukraine. I mean, it's always the you-know-what flows downhill. So whether it's like Trump stole the election because of Russia, then Ukraine, then Stormy, then Avenatti, then Michael Cohen, then he's trying to, cheat Biden, And then it was the pandemic. Then you had Hollywood and you had late night talking about the pandemic and how horrible Trump is. And now they're trying to pretend that Eric Garner didn't his life wasn't taken in New York City, New York, 5 years ago, and George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis, run by Democrats. Run by Democrats. Christopher! Dems are too loud right now for a party that's so certain they are winning. Seems insecure. Exactly. Christopher, well, but you know what the thing is? It's kind of like a band. Christopher, it's like a band that doesn't really have any lyrics to their song or any melody or any soul or any rock and roll or passion or punk rock and roll. Or it's like a band that just turns the volume up to 11. Turn it up to 11. Like the Spinal Tap. It goes up to 11. Spinal Tap. Oh my God. I love that so much. And then this is Rob Reiner when he was normal. He's like, why don't you just have it up to 10 and just make it louder? You know, he's like, it goes up to 11. It's even higher than 10. These go to 11. It's so great. This is so great. Anyway, it's very difficult too because it's difficult trying to explain to people that don't like Trump why you're voting for Trump. Don't do it, by the way. Don't ever do it. But the issue is that they just don't care. They just don't care why you would vote. Like, the reasons you're voting for President Trump, they don't care. Christopher, thank you. Remnant 0888. HA, can you see 4 years of corn pop and hair legs? Yes. Remnant 0888. No, it's going to be a seamless transition. It's going to be like starting a diesel engine and just revving up a diesel engine. It's going to be like, Michael Lee, thank you. It's going to be like revving up a diesel engine, a Remnant 088, slowly but surely. I used to have a diesel car. A car that ran on diesel fuel in college. You could hear that vehicle a mile away. And going up a hill, like I'd have to get one of those like those sticks that they hit the racehorse with. Because it went up that hill very slowly. But that's what they're doing. They're slowly revving up Clinton 2020. They don't see, this is the thing. When it happens, their philosophy is, well, nobody could say that we rigged the election because they will say, how could anyone have predicted this? And I will tell you that I've been saying this since 2017. So, ladies and gentlemen, when they say, well, nobody could have predicted this, just say H.A. Goodman predicted it, and not only did he predict it, he predicted that they would say he couldn't predict it. So, Hillary Clinton's going to be nominee. The fact that people think that a person isn't megalomaniacal enough to run again, or the political party isn't corrupt enough to let it happen again, that's the issue. The issue is not that she's running again. The issue is that because she is. The issue is that they don't think, they can't imagine, they can't possibly fathom a political party corrupt enough to do it all over again. Okay, so let's just see. Gwyneth Paltrow, Hillary Clinton, among... in, this is hilarious. This is something that I would never... The way it's written is very bizarre. Gwyneth Paltrow, Hillary Clinton, among white influencers sharing their platform to amplify black voices. That's a very unique headline. Why would black voices need two white women to amplify their voices? This is very interesting. It's like they're getting caught up and they're so not bigoted, they're becoming bigoted. It's very bizarre the way liberals think. The condescension is amazing too. If they did this like for people of my background, I'd be like, what? It would be like, Gwyneth Paltrow and Hillary Clinton. Samuel Stafford! Thank you! Got here late, HA. Could I get a quick update on the polls? How does it look for POTUS? God bless and keep up the good fight. Samuel Stafford, God bless you. Thank you so very much. It looks great, Samuel. Keep it. The ship remains steady as she goes, steady as we go. Samuel Stafford. Wow, that's a good slow-mo of me. Very rarely the YouTube buffering works out. Very rarely. Samuel Stafford, everything is going to work out well. November is going to be an amazing month. President Trump's going to win because they can't possibly. They can't spin, the media cannot spin their contempt and vitriol every single day. And once that happens and the economy moves up, Samuel, the ratings, approval ratings will increase. But also they're ignoring the fact that a lot of people aren't answering the polls, aren't answering the phones when pollsters call. They're also... If they have Republicans, it's never Trumpers, and the Democrats who do answer overwhelm. Like, there are far more Democrats in these polls than Republicans, so they're not giving an accurate assessment. Samuel Stafford, thank you very, very much again. Greatly, greatly appreciated for all your support. It means a great deal to me. And Samuel, this is hilarious. Gwyneth Paltrow, Hillary Clinton. This is hilarious. Like, it would be the equivalent if like, I saw the, like, Gwyneth Paltrow and Hillary Clinton among Gentile voices trying to amplify the meaningless, very soft-spoken voice of H.A. Badman. Oh, thank you, Gwyneth Paltrow and Hillary Clinton. Thank you so very much. You've helped me so much. This is unbelievable. This has to be part of a case study eventually. This is the most condescending. Gwyneth Paltrow, Hillary Clinton, among white influencers sharing their platform to amplify black voices. Why would black voices need these two women to amplify their voices? That makes no sense at all. Why? I like Gwyneth Paltrow, by the way. She's a great actress. Clinton is also a pretty good actress. You're talking about two actresses, but it makes like the public relations spin is like so condescending. It's unbelievable. Oh my God! Everything Hollywood touches turns to Bandini. It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. Why would they? This is a very condescending article. Why would any community need an actress and Clinton? And this is how you know Clinton's going to be. This is how you know Clinton's going to be nominee again. She's always in the news for the most bizarre. She's the one who who pushed for the crime bill, calls people super predators, young people who must be brought to heel, who lack empathy. November. Remember the monster truck? Samuel Stafford. Thank you, Samuel. As always, my goodness, Samuel, thank you very much. Your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. As always, thank you. It means a great deal to me. And look, my voice, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a very independent voice. So Samuel, you and others help me to just remain completely independent. So I appreciate that greatly, Samuel Stafford. Thank you. Hi-Fi Trucker! My leftist friend has been pleading with his leftist friends to quit the disband the cops message desperation. My leftist friends don't acknowledge it, so at least your leftist friends, Hi-Fi Trucker, are more rational than my leftist friends. I tried to bring it up to one of my buddies, and he was like, well, what does Joe Biden think? I'm like, he doesn't know where he is. What does that even have to do with what I just said? Clinton's going to be nominee anyway. No, she's not. Yes, she is. Hi-Fi Trucker, you have more intelligent leftist friends than I do. At least they acknowledge it. The people I know don't even acknowledge it. They don't even acknowledge it. They're like, oh, well, Biden's against it. Eric H526, thank you. I don't know what that means, but it's hilarious. Eric H526. Hi-Fi Trucker, Samuel Stafford. The hilarious part of all of this, ladies and gentlemen, is that... Oh, okay, I know what you mean now. Eric H526, thank you. Hi-Fi Trucker, Samuel Stafford. Hi-Fi Trucker, like I said, at least your friends acknowledge it. This is why I don't debate anyone I know, because they don't even acknowledge anything that doesn't suit their maniacal fantasies. Gwyneth Paltrow, Hillary Clinton, amplify voices. Gosh, 40 million people need your help to amplify their voice. What about the people of color who don't agree with media? What happens to them? Don't you know that it's all good when voices are amplified only if they agree with Democrats, but if they don't, then you can kiss that amplification goodbye. Then it's not really amplification, it's lessening of the volume. It's pretty unbelievable. It is pretty unbelievable. It really is. It really is unbelievable. The media is going to change. You watch. Trump campaign demands CNN apologize for poll. This is hilarious too because it's hey, Tulsa. Okay, so Trump 2020 campaign will return with rally in Tulsa. I think he has to go into Florida tomorrow. I really think he has to go into Florida. He doesn't even have Fox News, by the way, which is kind of hilarious. J-Spot J! Didn't mean to say that I accidentally hit send earlier. J-Spot J, hello! J-Spot J, hello. Hi-Fi Trucker, the people that you know are more rational than the people I know. Samuel Stafford, the polls they're leaning towards Trump. Because if you're only down 10 points with the apoplectic and hysterical and seething and fuming media coverage on things that that have nothing to do with Trump. These things the murder of George Floyd took place in Minneapolis. The 1.4 billion in property loss and the 10,000 arrests happened primarily in Democratic-run states. How is this Trump's fault? I mean, how is it 80% of Americans disagree with, like, oppose property loss, which isn't, Then you have, like, Jimmy Fallon, Trump's approval rating dips further as he continues tweeting. Like, what do I care? What do I care what Jimmy Fallon or I like Jimmy Fallon, actually, more so than the others. But what do I care what Stephen Colbert thinks or Trevor Noah? At the end of all of this, you're going to have, in November, when Trump wins again, you're going to have, like, a complete paradigm shift. A complete paradigm shift. By the way, I did a segment today, a great segment on why, on Hillary Clinton becoming nominee again, because you had Terry McAuliffe who's like, yeah, Biden's good in his basement. He's going to have to get out of the basement, so he's going to have to get out of the basement. Mitchell Smith, hello. This is the thing, like, it's kind of like Democrats are like horrible parents that pander to, like, spoiled kids. Do you want a flamethrower? Fine, okay. Do you want a Formula One race car and you didn't pass your driving test? Okay, honey, just drive safe. What's that white powder I found in your room? I know, I shouldn't have looked. You want to elope with the head of a biker gang and give a Ponzi scheme our entire life savings? Fine, honey, fine. It's just whatever you want. Lee, hello. So it's like the Democrats like keep pandering, and it's like they have no intent to do any of the things they like. Notice how nobody's talking about Medicare for all. That fizzled out. Oh my God, did that fizzle out? That fizzled out, and nobody even. I thought Medicare for all was supposed to revitalize the Democratic Party. Notice all the pundits and all the. So Trump today, just now, he writes Law and Order. Nobody gets the humor. They don't get it. Nobody gets the humor. Nobody gets the hilarious. Nobody gets the humor. They don't get this. They don't get it. They don't get, like, they're so oblivious to when Trump says law and order. They don't understand. They don't understand that all Americans want law and order, even though they might phrase it differently. You can't protest peacefully if there's no law and order. So they don't get it. They're so clueless. They don't get it. So he types in law and order. Yeah. And then when they win, it's like, all right, Junior, won again. Oh my God. Democrats are hilarious too. By the way, Minnesota, Minnesota is in play for Trump. You know, it's kind of like this also. Like, I mean, I love sports analogies, even though that's apparently a thing of the past. But if you have a pitcher, who here has played fantasy baseball? Okay, would you draft a pitcher that has an extremely high walks and hits to inning pitch? But by the way, I don't like the new wins above replacement, all that stuff. Like, I'm not down with the new sabermetrics. I'm old school because I think it's nonsense. But you can't evaluate like walks and hits to innings pitched. You can evaluate. If a person has a low ERA? So, ladies and gentlemen, Florida Man Bear, keep it up, Fat. You know the deal. Come on, Fat. Come on, Fat. Come on, Fat. And you know that I'm in my basement, man. I'm in my basement, man. I don't have to get out of my base. Come on. Hey, man. Don't be a wise guy. Don't be a wise butt. Don't be a wise guy. Florida Man Bear. Florida Man Bear. Thank you so very much as always. Samuel. Thank you as always, Samuel. Florida Man Bear. Samuel, everybody here. If you had... Hello. If you had a pitcher with a very high walks and hits to innings pitched number, or rating. And so he loads the bases every inning, but he gets out of the jams. Okay. And his ERA is low. But he's getting knocked around the ballpark. He walks people, he gets hit. People get singles and doubles, but they just don't knock runs home. Just don't knock runs home. Florida Man Bear, do you want a pitcher? And Samuel Stafford, do you want a pitcher that gets lucky all the time, loads the bases all the time with no out or one out, and then just gets out of the jam? What do you think happens in the day that he's not lucky? He gives up 8 runs in 1 inning. That's the Democratic Party. They are counting on every single thing to happen for them in the Electoral College. But if they lose Minnesota, their plans are done. If you take the exact same Electoral College map and Clinton this time around wins Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, if she loses Minnesota, she doesn't win the election. This is how, I mean, there was a moment several months back where like she had a really good chance. I gave her like a 30% chance to win. But when they go to Hillary Clinton, it'll be the biggest political call of all time. It will be the biggest political call of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, Florida Man Bear, thank you. Hi-Fi Trucker, thank you. Everyone, thank you. Samuel Stafford, thank you so very much. The polls are, if you look just a little bit, if you look within the polls, the 15-point advantage President Trump has within the CNN poll among independents on the economy. If independents are going to decide the election, the economy is going to be the biggest issue in that poll where he's down 14 points. Trump is up by 16 points on the economy among independents. So, exactly, Guy Richardson, ERA is where it's at. I think so also, I think so also. And walks and hits per innings pitch, and the strikeouts per 9 innings too. Samuel Stafford, thank you, as always, sir, thank you. Everyone here, Florida Man Bear, everyone here, thank you very much. To my super chat, thank you, Samuel. Thank you again. And I'll be back at around 10:30 p.m. tonight, ladies and gentlemen, 10:30 p.m. tonight, Pacific. I have a segment up on H.A. Goodman's other channel in 15 minutes. Check out that segment on H.A. Goodman's other channel. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless. Be here at 10:30 p.m. Pacific for my live stream. Luke St. Martin, Eric H526, thanks for being the best moderators in all of YouTube. God bless you all, people. Have a great evening. I'll be back in about 3 hours or so. Thanks, everyone.